You two are telepathically linked, Layla asked, surprised. Does this mean that you are hearing each other's thoughts all the time? I'm not hearing her thoughts any more than I'm hearing yours while we are in the same room, Luna says. As long as we're both careful to not use words when you're thinking, we can keep our thoughts to ourselves. Oh, right, Layla says. That makes sense. Are you ready, Barry? Flower says, and I'm now casting my air currents on myself so that I'll be able to fly through the ether at the moment's notice. Where do you think we should teleport first? We could go and fight Peter directly, or we could try to meet up with the Overseer first and team up with him. I don't know how well the Overseer can handle himself in the ethereal plane, so he might get in our way more than helping us, but I still think it might be worth a shot to go talk to him. I think we should go to the Overseer because he's literally an AI, so he should be able to figure shit out much faster than anyone else. So we'll go to the Overseer. Alright, you say, let's go to the Overseer first then. Can you teleport us there now? I'm on it, a Flower says as we're both getting enveloped by a bright white light. Here we go, Flower says. When I look around, I see that we are now somewhere in the sea of light called the ether, with the Overseer's green eye drone floating right next to us. Processing. The Overseer says. The Overseer protocol now understands why I couldn't find your group anywhere in the ether. Having witnessed your ability to teleport, my assumption is that you all must have teleported to a safe haven where you are undetectable. Is that correct? Yes, Flower says. That's right. Wait, you've been looking for us? Affirmative. The Overseer says. The Overseer protocol wishes to apologize for the inconvenience it has caused. Your souls were not meant to be teleported outside of your body along with the rebel souls. Unfortunately, the technique I used was still experimental. It ended up affecting the whole area of the battlefield instead of targeting only our common enemies. Oh, it's no problem, Flower says. Everything's fine now. So anyway, we wanted to ask you if you'd like to fight Peter and the King of the Underground together with us on the ethereal plane. I could teleport us to them right now if you want. The Overseer protocol accepts your offer. The green-eyed drone says. That was the destination I was heading to as well. Great, Flower says. Now get ready then. We are teleporting there in 3, 2, 1. What are you doing here? Suddenly hear the voice of Peter once we are done teleporting to our new location. I turn to look towards Peter, who was somewhere around 20 feet away from us. I see that the King of the Underground was also there. Like Flower said, he had already created a body for himself in the ethereal plane. As I get to better look at the two of them myself, notice the fact that Peter's eyes are not shining brightly at Flower's, which means that he might not have experienced the same evolution that would allow him to teleport over long distances and to detect souls on the ethereal plane no matter where they are. Take a wild guess, I ask Peter. This is a mistake, Peter says. You should not challenge me in this place. Turn back while we still have the chance. Sorry, I say, not happening. You don't understand what you're getting yourself into, Peter says. The Overseer is the only one I want to fight here. Leave now and we can still... Peter, I'm sorry for interrupting, says the King of the Underground, but I have a quick question for you before we begin our fight. Yes, my king, Peter says. You told me that my earthen body uses its aura to link itself to my soul from the ethereal plane. Is that right? The king says, yes, sir. Peter answers, so if the aura is linked to my soul, the king says, then it would be logical to assume that my soul also has a separate aura of its own, which the other aura can link itself with, correct? I haven't really given it much thought until now, Peter says, but logically speaking, it should be as you say, yes. Good, the King of the Underground says, so I'm not just imagining things. He stretches his arms forward while pointing his palm towards us. An invisible force immediately pushes me and Flower Overseer back about 10 feet. It's a bit weaker than on the earthen plane, but it looks like I'll be able to use aura manipulation on this plane of existence as well, the King of the Underground says, as he now turns to us. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm ready whenever you are. Just say the word and we'll start the battle. Okay, I tell him. As I get in a special stance, I make some very fast hand movements while I'm imagining the magical energy building up in my fingertips. I'm saying the word then. Before the king has the time to respond, I point my finger at him and a bolt of lightning shoot out, straight for his chest. The lightning bolt seems to hit him at first, but then I realize that the only thing I did was slightly graze his invisible shield made out of hardened aura that is surrounding him. Following my lead, Flower also commences the attack by hitting both Peter and the King of the Underground with barrage of fireballs. When the flames from the explosion fade away, I see that Peter had managed to create a dome of ice around him, which shielded them completely, but now quickly melting from all the heat. That was quite the powerful attack you fired towards this little girl, the King of the Underground says. Once the ice dome is completely gone, if I don't know any better, I might even get the wrong idea that you're trying to kill us. Nobody's trying to kill anyone. All we want is to defeat you and bring the war to an end. Of course we're trying to kill you. This is what you get for plotting to assassinate us. Yeah, I think we do want to kill him because he's a dangerous folk. We'll go with that. I see that you're still trying your hardest to turn me into the villain of the story, the King of the Underground says. A pity, really. I truly hope that we could put an end to our disagreements in a more civilized way than this. You still want me to hold back when fighting then, my king, Peter says. Only if it does not put your life in danger, the King of the Underground says. If you do not think that it is possible, then you have permission to go all out. Okay then. Now then, the King of the Underground says as he points towards me. Let's put those newly acquired magical powers of yours to the test, shall we? As he finishes his sentence, the King of the Underground extends his hand towards us, and right afterwards, Flower and I got surrounded by box made by semi-transparent impenetrable wall, which looked very similar to the one that which were being used by Talmac's elf subordinate. Once I get to ask myself what the King of the Underground is trying to do, the air inside the box starts to get colder and colder to the point that we would likely become frozen statues if we were to spend more than half a minute in there. Hold on tight, a Flower tells me as she grabs my arm. We are teleporting out. As soon as the bright light surrounds us, our bodies start to vibrate loudly. A few seconds later, we find ourselves outside the box. It looks like we have a slight problem in our hands. A new semi-transparent box was created just as quickly around us, and the air inside it is also beginning to freeze at a rapid pace, likely as a result of one of Peter's spells. Tell Flower teleport us closer to the king and the Peter this time. Tell Flower that we should move in separate direction as soon as we teleport again, but that would mean our death. Ask Flower if she can attack the king with a pillar of fire to break his concentration. We should get up close, I guess. Yeah, let's get up close. I think that's a bad idea, but let's get up. I'm gonna, save first. Let's get up in his grill. Try to teleport us closer to the king and Peter this time, I tell Flower in a low voice. That way they won't be able to box around us without trapping themselves in. Good idea, Flower says. Here we go. Just before Flower grabs my arm, then we teleport out of the box, but this time we materialize right next to the enemies. As I predicted, the king avoids using his semi-transparent box when he sees us so up close. Tries to use aura manipulation to push us instead. Flower, however, does not give the King of the Underground the time to use his technique. She shoots a beam of fire at him, which forces him to focus on all of his efforts on reinforcing the aura shield around him. In the meantime, I also take advantage of this confusion. What is the overseer doing? Confusion to strike Peter with the lightning spell that I used before on the king. To my surprise, instead of trying to evade it, Peter makes the exact same movements as me, only in reverse. My lightning disappears as soon as it reaches me. Was that Brynhorn dispelling technique? Is this guy seriously using my own techniques against me? Who is going to regret this? What are you blabbering about? Peter asked me, having apparently heard my thoughts. What do you mean your own technique? If you are trying to distract me, you should have gone with a lie that is a bit more credible. Ah crap, I forgot to think without words again. I better make sure to think faster from now on, or I'll give away all my plans to him. Okay, so the way I see it, this technique has one major weakness, which is in fact that you need to figure out what your enemy is casting very quickly, so that you can do all the movements in reverse and somehow still finish them fast enough to counter your opponent's spell, due to the fact multi-spell dispelling is particularly vulnerable to feints. Oh boy, I really don't think that I hope that I will make a complete fool of myself. I really hope I don't think all of that out loud. I really make a complete fool of myself. As Flower is still pushing pressure on the King of the Underground with her fire spell, I get in the stance required to cast my previous lightning spell. I do the almost exact same movements did before, except one small difference. On the way back, I rotate my left hand, which changes the flow of the magic completely, allowing me to cast a different spell. Peter is too busy focusing on his own movements to notice the subtle difference, as by the time I point my finger at him and shoot lightning, he fully commits to the dispel and he doesn't move a muscle from his position. The electric shock hits him head on, and it even burns through some of the magic shield, because I can see him trembling for a few seconds before he regains his composure. You tricked me, Peter says as he puts his hand on his chest, begins to cast a healing spell on himself. How did you manage to, for crying out loud, Peter, the King of the Underground says, when he is still under assault from Flower. The man literally told you he invented that dispelling technique, and the next thing you do is use it against him again. What were you even thinking? He didn't invent anything, Peter says. It's Brynhorn's technique, not his. It's even in the name. But I don't care who it is named after. Just don't use it again, okay? The king says, you are an ethereal and a generalist. Surely you can think of better ways to engage him than simply cancelling his beginner level spells. Perhaps you're right, Peter says. He finishes his healing spell. Let's see if I can try something a little more overwhelming. He then begins to move his hands very quickly while he is amassing an insane amount of energy for his next spell. I immediately recognize it as being one of the most complex fire spells that can that you can learn from the standard manuals, which is meant to summon dozens of fireballs that would follow me around no matter where I go. Without thinking, I started to cast the same spell in reverse so I can dispel it.